Hi everybody, this is Gijs again with another review and I hope you are doing well. And yes, you've guessed it probably, it's a review about a tent. It is about the Hilleberg Rogen 3, a 3-person tent for 3 seasons. And in this video I hope to give you the answer if this is my ultimate 3-season sort of freestanding dome tent. Enjoy the video! And welcome back to the review on the Hilleberg Rogen 3. For those of you who just tuned into my channel for the very first time, it might be polite to introduce myself. My name is Gijs. I am a Dutch outdoor gear, bike and sometimes also gadget reviewer. And I do my work totally independent. So if you like what I do at the end of this video, then please give it a like and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, because with more of you it's more rewarding for me to make these kind of videos. Now you might see it because of the backdrop, the Rogen. We are in Sweden and we've been testing the Rogen now, me and my wife, for about a year. I think I got it on April last year. It's June by now, so we've been having a good deal of experience with the tent. Last week we did a very nice trekking, mosquitoes, a very nice trekking in the Hillebergs area, Mount Hillebergs, 1700 something meters. We had some pretty nasty weather with heavy winds. And now we are in the Rogen National Park, because if we are in Sweden, then basically you can shoot a review in the Rogen National Park, and that's what we did. We did some hikes here as well. And this spot is in the middle of a couple of lakes, because it's pretty windy. You might see it in the weather changement, in the shades and in the colors, because sometimes there are big clouds. There is also some rain expected. So this is going to be a challenging review to make. The Rogen National Park, by the way, is sort of in the middle of Sweden, close to the Norwegian border. I even think that it gets to the border itself. And it's a wonderful area, not only for hiking, but especially for canoeing. So if you are looking for a new adventure, go to the Rogen National Park and visit Hillebergs. Now, as you can see, the tent is not totally pitched at the moment in the correct way. So let's start again, but then from the total beginning. Like I said before, let's start with the beginning. And the beginning is, of course, a tent in a pouch. And maybe for you to know, I already told you this is an area with a lot of lakes. Why are we not sitting behind or next to a lake, which gives a better view? Well, simply because of the wind. And it's quite, well, the soil, it's not mildly damp, it's just quite wet. And here, in between of those lakes, on a nice little sort of hilly, this is the most flat spot that we could find. So this is just a better way to pitch the tent, although the view might not be that fantastic. Now, back the pouch. As you can see, this is a rather large package, but it is a 3-person tent. You can also see that there is a lot of space left. That means that next to the tent you can put some other stuff in here. For example, if you would like to bring a tarp to give a little bit more shelter, mosquitoes again, to have a little bit more shelter when it's wet and raining, and it will absolutely fit in here. The same for example, a footprint. Hilleberg does do a footprint for this tent. It only covers the inner tent floor space, and it will set you back 135 euros, and it weighs 369 grams if I'm correct. But that will fit in here as well. So that's why this pouch is so spacious. But you'll also see, and I said it before, that there are no compression straps on the pouch. And that is because of a reason. Because Hillebergs thinks that if you put straps on it, you will strap it down too tightly and the poles and maybe the pegs will damage the pouch and the tent inside of it. So that's the reason why it looks a little bit like a pouch. What is nice to know also is that the tent is made in Estonia, and on the inside of the tent you can see the name of the person who made it. Now, the tent, let's start with the size and the weights. I put this one on my price scale and I measured a weight of 2,490.3 grams. And that is a little bit less than what Hilleberg claims, because they claim a weight of, and now I need to get some mosquito repellent because there are too many in here. This is absolutely what you need in mosquito infested Sweden. This absolutely works. Now, back to the size and weights. Hilleberg claims a weight of 2,500 grams, so that's a little bit more than I actually weighted. Hillebergs claims a pack size of 16 centimeters by 47 centimeters, and I measured 20 to 50, which is a little bit bigger, but that's maybe because of this one has been packed many times by now, so that is maybe the difference. Now let's get into the pouch itself and see all the different weights. Now, what is a little bit different than to the moment that we arrived here, I actually packed it in the pouch itself, but it was in my backpack in different parts. So the pole set, it was stuck to the side of my, on the background you might see it, it's an Osprey downburst backpack, and the whole tent does not really fit in there, so I took parts. The poles themselves, they weighed, including the stuff bag, 593.8 grams, and you will see that there is, well, a lot of poles, of course. And what is nice, that in the pole set there is this, where is it, extra pole, so that if you need to repair one part, then you have one extra. And there is also, but that's somewhere down there, of course, a repair sleeve. So when you've got one broken pole and you don't want to replace the whole part, then you just put this on top of this, duct tape around it, and basically you're sorted. And it's neat that this has a extra small pouch in the pole pouch itself. So it's neatly tucked away and it will not fall out every time when you take out the poles themselves. The second part is, of course, where is it? Yes, there it is. It's a little bit of a different material, but it's the pegs in here. There are, as I believe, there are 15 pegs in there, and it weighs 145.2 grams. Now, last but not least, in this case, because we use the outer tent and the inner tent simultaneously in this setup, how we are traveling in Sweden, the inner tent weighs 819 grams and the outer tent weighs 888.1 grams. Then the only thing that's left is the stuff bag itself, and that one weighs 44.2 grams. So if you add everything together, you will come to my number of 2,490.3 grams. And now, there's something that I need to tell you about the Hilleberg color system. Because Hilleberg divides their tents into blue, black, red and yellow tents. The blue tents are basically the group tents for more than 4 people basically. The black tents are the 4-season tents that are designed for durability and comfort, but taking a little bit less of the weight into account, and also they are also made for always 4 seasons. Then there is the red type of tent, and that's a balance between weight and comfort. But they are 4-season tents as well. And then there is the Rogen, and the Rogen that falls into the category of the Hilleberg yellow tents, which means that it is a lightweight tent with comfort, of course, but it is made for, as Hilleberg tells always, for the snow-free seasons of the year. and most of the time in Europe we talk about 3 season tents, and in the Netherlands that means basically 4 seasons because we hardly have any snow whatsoever. But here in Sweden that's of course different. Now the Rogen 3 belongs to those yellow tents, and on my YouTube channel I've got 2 other yellow Hilleberg tents. That is the Hillebergs 2 and the Anaris 2. So if you're curious in those tents, the Hillebergs it is a tunnel tent, and the Anaris is a more of a classic pole tent with 2 hiking poles, and then you pitch the tent. So if you're looking for those reviews, then please take a look at the description below, because the links are in there. And now that was a lot about the basics, and now let's pitch the tent first and we'll continue with the materials. On the pitching of the Hilleberg Rogen 3 I did a separate video, a tutorial video that is on my YouTube channel, so the link is below in the description. So after you're done with this video, watch that video if you really want to know into details how you should pitch the Hilleberg Rogen 3 and also the 2. And now there's 1 peg left, but I'll leave this one because I don't want to use this guy line at the moment, because that will be in the way the whole time when I get in and out of the tent. Now put this in the stuff bag together with the peg, open the tent, and leave this in here. Now what is important now if you've pitched the tent is that on one side of the pole sleeves there is this pulling strap. Pull it nicely, not too much, so you get some strength on the pole sleeves and on the poles themselves. That makes the tent more sturdy and also shapes the fabric a little bit better. Now, if the weather is going to stay like this, we are pretty lucky. And now let's get into all the details on the materials of the tent itself. The outer material of the tent, it is a Carlon fabric. And Carlon is a brand of Hilleberg itself. So you will not find this tent fabric anywhere else. Of course, it is a ripstop nylon, and it's got a thickness, or maybe I should say thinness, of 20 deniers. Ripstop, for those of you who don't know this, it means that it has a cross pattern of thicker wires, so when you get a small puncture in here, the fabric will not tear through, so this is still very repairable. Now, the tent has got 2 layers of silicone on the outer side of the material and 1 layer of silicone on the inside of the material. Because of the silicone, it means that if you get a small puncture in this, you will need a special repair material that is for siliconized fabrics. So be aware of this, because most tapings will not bond to a silicone fabric. Now the other thing is, and now there is a big patch of a cloud coming again, so it's not necessary, but on the outside of the fabric it is also of course treated with a anti-UV coating, so it will not deteriorate too much when it's exposed to the sun a lot of times. What you might want to know about the silicone fabric or the siliconized fabric also is that the parts that are sewn together, the seams, when you've got a fabric that has got a PU, polyurethane coating on the inside, all the seams are most of the time taped, because a taping, the glue itself, bonds to the PU. With a siliconized fabric, this is almost impossible. Only Vaude found a way to do this, but they're not telling the secret, I believe. So what does Hilleberg do? Basically, if you've got a seam, they use flat fell seams or flat felt seams. That means that they are locked, the fabric is locked into each other, and then the needle goes through it, and then you've got a lot of layers on top of each other. Now the materials, when it's stitched, it's done with a swell yarn, so when it gets wet the yarn itself, it swells and it fills the holes. And in this way is an absolute waterproof construction. Now sometimes after a lot of use and putting some tension on the fabric, then the holes of the stitches might get a little bit bigger. Now if you want to repair that or close the holes, then you use a little bit of seam seal, which is just a sort of glue-like material. Put it on the inside of the seam, close the hole, and your tent will be waterproof again. If you look at the inner tent, you will see a lot of mesh, and you will see the yellow fabric. And the yellow fabric, it is a ripstop nylon again, and it has got a thinness of 10 deniers. So this is even thinner than the outer layer that already feels very, very thin. Again, a ripstop nylon, and this one is treated with a durable water repellent coating. So when you've got droplets of maybe condensation on the tent itself, it will not affect basically the tent fabric, and it will stay dry. And there is the sun again, absolutely wonderful. Now you can see this is really bright yellow, and that means that if you're inside the tent, also with the green, but mainly the yellow, that even if it's a very cloudy day, inside it is a very bright tent and the sun is basically always shining, which is sometimes very deceptive. When you wake up in the morning you think, hey, it's sunny outside, and it is absolutely not. But that on the side. The floor, it is made out of a 70 denier nylon, so this is really thick, and it is coated with a polyurethane coating. So in this case you will see that the seams are taped with a taping. The floor itself, Hilleberg guarantees a hydrostatic head rating of 15,000 millimeters, and for the fly they guarantee a static head figure of a number of 5,000 millimeters. And static head, it says something about the waterproofness of the fabric itself, or of the material, because basically you can put a water column on top of it, of the material, of the floor of 15 meters high, and then it will start leaking, and on the tent fabric of 5 meters high, and after that it might start to leak. Those numbers, I never ever do anything with them, because for me it's more how it's in practice, what the tent does. And this one has proven to be absolutely 100% waterproof, not only here but also the floor itself. Looking from this angle, it might be difficult to see, but the Rogen 3 is a almost symmetrical tent. So if we look at the tent as a symmetrical tent, in this way, if you look at this line, it is totally symmetrical, or that part to that part. But if you look in this direction, it's a little bit different, because this part is not the same as that part. And that has got to do with the third pole, basically, that is positioned offset of the center. So it is positioned forwards. Now what does that mean? That means that if you look at guideline, this part, if you take this diagonal, this entry is 130 centimeters. And since the door is orientated in basically this opening direction, this is the most logical entry. This also means that under the awning, this part, you've got the biggest space, because this side measures 160 centimeters. And this awning, it is 85 centimeters deep, gives enough space for backpacks and also for panniers. And since you've got two of them, it's absolutely fine. But if you are with 3 persons, it is not that huge, to be totally honest. Now, let me show you one little trick that you can do, of course. That is when I take that one away and I close the door. Then if I take away this attachment point, like so, then I can take the toggle and put it on the other side. And I can attach it here. And in that case, I can open this side. And also here, there is this nice loop and toggle system. So what we have noticed now, especially on Hillebergs, where we had a lot of shifting winds, that at a certain point in time it was better to have that one closed because of the wind was getting more from that direction and we were more sheltered in this way. Because of the door having basically the entry on that side, it is a little bit more difficult to get inside, or a little bit more illogical, but it is still very well accessible. Of course, the awning space is a little bit less for your backpack. Now there is this little loop over here. That means that you can use this guy line and attach it on this side. So you still can use a guy line to tension the tent fabric or the tent. And then it comes off, of course, from this side. And you can do exactly the same on the other side. Now, what we did like about this is especially because how we pitched the tent. In that way there was a very nice valley to look down on. So we opened this one, the wind and the rain were coming from that side. It blew over the entry and we had a wonderful panoramic view on that direction basically, because that in that direction was not that interesting. Now, of course, because of this, what you can also do is just fold it away totally. And especially when the weather is a little bit warmer, like this, you've got an anti-mosquito tent. You're still very well protected, especially when the wind is coming from that direction, but even the view is better than ever. Now, the mosquito webbing or netting, this one is absolutely super fine, so no midget will get through it and mosquitoes will never enter the tent. So that is a very big bonus, especially if you are outdoors in Scandinavia. And now let's have a look inside the tent. Like I mentioned already, the big door, it's easy to get into the tent. And now let's continue with the action cam, because otherwise I cannot show you the interior space of this tent at all. Like I mentioned, I'm not totally sure, the door, it's 125 by 83 centimeters high. That's big enough for bigger adults. A little downside, by the way, of the yellow fabric is that flies, insects love it. They think it's a flower, so they get onto it quite rapidly. Now, interior space. Hilleberg claims a width of 160 centimeters and a length of 230 centimeters and a height at 105 centimeters. Now, I measured it and I came to a width of 166 centimeters and a length of 225 centimeters. The height a little bit higher, 107 centimeters. Now, the interior space, the little differences, they are not that important. They can be influenced by temperature, by the way how I pitch it, maybe just because of the floor, what's underneath it. Forget about the differences. What we did like is that it is a Rogen 3 and not a Rogen 3 and not a Rogen 2. And everything that I say in this video regarding to the setup, so except from all the numbers in weight and length and size and that kind of stuff, applies for the Rogen 2 as well. Now, what we noticed is that the interior space, and let's take the number from Hilleberg, the 160 in width, it is sort of enough for 3 persons if you are having mattresses that are about 50 centimeters wide, which we regard as pretty narrow. Ours are a little bit bigger. So with the 2 of us, the interior space is big enough. So if you're 3 big adults, or maybe 2 adults with a kid, then go into a shop and see in practice if the interior space is big enough for you. In our case, we can still leave some luggage inside our tents, like clothing, maybe some shoes that we don't want to get damp on the outside. So the 3, that would be our choice instead of the 2. And the extra weight, I don't think that's that important, neither it may be the extra amount of money, but later more on that. Now, if you're looking at the interior of the tent, you will see that the bathtub height, that's something that I always measure. It's this height. It is about 10 centimeters, which is high enough if you're having a little bit of water around the tent, or when it's raining very hard, water will not get into the tent at all. Now you can see that the floor, it's quite bubbly. That's because it's not a totally even surface, but on the sides where you've got the ventilation from the outer tent as well, it is a little bit higher. The extras on the inner tent, well, they are very limited. The only thing that we've got is a little pouch on this side, and well, basically also on this side, and in the ceiling there are 5 loops, so you can attach a rope through it, so you can hang some wet socks or maybe a towel there to dry during the night. Maybe Hilleberg does sell a gear loft, I'm not totally sure on that. We did not use this at all because it was just not needed. Winds and weather changes are so rapidly that if we've got some wet stuff, we just let it dry outside in the wind. And now, to make things a little bit more practical, we are going to put all our gear in the tent for the night, so you have got a more practical view on how everything looks. Everything is in the tent. 2 mattresses, 2 sleeping bags. The backpacks are underneath the awnings. So basically we are ready for the night. And now let me show you a little bit on interior space, again using the action camera. And you will see what we're carrying at the moment. It's just a small backpacks. They're about 34 and 36 liters, but everything fits in there for a couple of days. And well, the interior space in the tent, you can see that for 2 persons it is absolutely nicely filled. So if it is 3 persons, then you definitely need smaller mattresses than we are having, because this is the space that is left basically for the 3rd mattress. But what we do like, because we are small people, is the fact that, well, we've got some space over there, or if you change it the other way around, near the foot's end, to put some more stuff in there. And you see that mesh door is closed. This one is open. I'm going to close this one because otherwise our night is going to be hell. And you see, it's a pretty fine mesh. Whee! Before I continue with my verdict, there are a few things that I need to say about ventilation, condensation, and maybe also about the reflection on some parts. The ventilation does come basically from the arched sides that the tent has all around. And because of these arches, a lot of wind is getting underneath here, and especially on this one because there is a sort of a ditch here, but also on this side. And here we've got this thing to pull out the guide line so that the ventilation can really get underneath the tent fabric, or underneath the outer tent and between the inner tent. And yes, there is some airflow going on, but I am pretty sure that if the tent would have a ventilation opening in the dome top itself, that there would have been a little less condensation. It's not really bad, to be totally honest. It's better than some other tents that I've tested, but still it's got some, it suffers from some condensation sometimes. But tell me one lightweight tent that is made out of a lightweight siliconized fabric that is not suffering from condensation. And in that respect, a full floor also covering the footprint basically on the outer tent, that would save a lot of condensation. On this surface it would have been totally impractical, by the way, because, well, it's so bubbly, we would not benefit from it. Now, one last thing that I want to say about the reflection. The guy lines on the Hilleberg, they are red, they are very, very strong, and there is a sort of white yarn woven into it. And it looks like it is reflective, but it is not, because Hilleberg is against reflective guy lines, because the reflective material sometimes breaks down in the guy lines itself, and that damages, or that can hurt your hands, and it also might damage the tent fabric itself. The reflection that this tent has is basically on the pole sleeves, very small notches, but that is basically enough to see the tent when it's dark, when you go out, for example, for a wee. In this case, Totally not necessary because we are very close to Midsummer's Eve, so it does not get dark anyway here. With all this information, it's time to wrap up this video and head on to my verdict. How do I rate the Hilleberg Rogen 3? Well, in the first place, I do think it is a very well balanced tent, and well balanced regards the space, the weight and the durability. I also like the fact that Hilleberg has chosen the duck featherlight poles, the green ones, because they are sustainable and also very durable. The pegs, they've proven to be durable as well. The tent, as we pitched it, the inner and the outer tent simultaneously, it is fast and very straightforward, and that means it's easy to pitch. The fact that it is semi-freestanding, it allows you to move the tent around and try to lie down if the space where you want to pitch it is nice and flat and does not have too many bumps. That you need 2 pegs just to basically peg it down at the awnings, that is a pro too. My wife and I both like the fact that it is a symmetrical tent in one respect. That means that we've got 2 sides to enter the tent, we've got our own space, and that's absolutely nice. If it's the 3 of you, then, well, if somebody needs to crawl over the other one when they get out of the tent. That means also that if you are with 3 bigger adults, we think this tent is a little bit on the small side. If it's just the 2 of you, and even if you are very big, this tent is absolutely spacious enough. And for us, with only 1 meter and 70 centimeters, it is a giant interior space, and the awning space is big enough for our backpacks. What surprised us a little bit was that the wind resistance is way better than we expected, especially on Hillebergs, where we had a lot of wind coming from behind. Yes, the tent moved around a lot, but we were absolutely perfectly sheltered, and you can hear it on the noise inside the tent that we did not suffer that much from wind noise either. So the tent fabric, it's nice and tensioned, it doesn't flap around a lot. The arch sides prevent condensation when there is wind, and you can move the sides a little bit more up and a little bit more down if you want to have some more ventilation or some more protection against the weathers. But in general, we noticed in the Netherlands, camping on very damp ground, that the tent does suffer from some condensation, and we would love to see a small maybe ventilation opening in the dome top itself. But name me one tent that's made from lightweight materials like this one that does not have any problems with condensation at all. Next to the high quality of the duck poles and the aluminum pegs, I also like the Carlon fabric. That's absolutely lightweight but also very strong. Last but not least, the price, and this is something that me and my wife had sort of a debate about, because in Europe it retails for 1,560 euros, in the US for $1,445 and in the UK for £1,475. So that is quite some money. So if you think in buying a new tent and even thinking about buying the Rogen 3, then you should see this as probably as a premium investment in your total outdoor gear kit. And of course, it will last you for many years. But that said, we still think it is pretty expensive, and therefore I rate it at 8.8 points out of 10 total. I really hope you liked this review and that it is useful to you, and if it is, then please give the video a like and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, because simply with more of you it's more fun for me and my wife to make these kind of reviews. Many thanks in advance if you do. And also please hit the notification button so you know when I uploaded new videos. Now, if you did like the video about the Rogen 3 but you are looking for maybe a other kind of tent, I already mentioned the reviews that I did on the Hilleberg Anaris and also on the Hilleberg Hillebergs, both 2-3 season lightweight tents. I released a short while ago a new review on a Fjellraven Abisko Freeluft 2 tent that looks very similar than this one, but has a totally different way of pitching, so that might be of interest to you as well. Now also on the backpacks that we've been using on this trip, and also some time ago on Iceland and in some different trips, the Osprey downburst backpacks, we will be releasing videos on them as well. So again, hit that notification button. And on all the names that I just named, I'll put the link in the description below. And I also put a link to my outdoor gear favorite playlist, and maybe some photography stuff that you might like in the materials or the gear that I use to shoot these kind of videos. So if you're done with this video, you're not done with my channel, maybe there is much more to watch for you. So if you do this, many thanks as well, because that counts for my YouTube numbers. If you're done watching, then I don't really blame you, but I really hope you are heading outdoors, just like we do, because outdoors and playing outdoors, that's the best part you can have in a day, I think. Enjoy the outdoors and stay safe. Ciao, ciao! And now, what was I going to do? I was going to first thank my wife behind the camera, because she did a great job again. And now let's make some tea and coffee, because if you've watched this video completely, then you will have seen that the sun was over there in the beginning and now it's over there. So it's been a pretty long day, and I got to make some real nice detail shots still. So when you make coffee or tea, I'll do that. Bye!
Bye bye!